Okay.
When John Cena showed up in that episode of The Bear season 3,
Yeah, I didn't know what to do about it. I kind
I
of just
lost my
it.
mind.
No, I did lose it.
You know, like, people are always talking about how, like, you know, out of The Rock, John Cena, and Batista, that, like, Batista's the best
I think so.
actor. And I agree. But I feel like John Cena still doesn't get
I think
enough
John Cena's
credit.
the funniest.
Yeah, by far. The funniest.
And I think The Rock is overrated.
The Rock is The Rock. You know, like
He's just The Rock.
Yeah, he's The Rock.
He's
Like,
not anything.
He's in the occasional good movie or two.
I guess.
Role. But I think John Cena is so funny.
I think it's
Oh my
because
God.
we know the fact that The Rock can't lose anything contractually.
Yeah.
That ruins everything that he's in.
It absolutely ruins it. I don't know why he decided.
Because he's got an ego the size of, like, the planet.
So. The size of The Rock.
The size of The Rock, yeah.
That's right, yeah.
That's why he's called The Rock. Welcome back to the Lost in Cosmere
hello,
podcast.
everybody. Oh my gosh.
We are here in person. We're in person.
Crazy? Yeah, this is pretty wild, isn't it?
I know. Yeah. So we found a dungeon in a castle somewhere, and
Yep, we're in a dungeon.
We are currently filming. You know, they're currently. Yeah, I'm not going to make that joke. That was like a horrible joke. I was going to be like, they're currently doing executions, and
I mean, they are doing tons of executions in this dungeon right now. So if you hear the occasional scream,
that's
there's nothing we can do about it.
yeah. So anyway,
Anyway,
we are back.
we're back. This is our first in-person
episode. First in-person episode.
in a dungeon, but you know, you have to start somewhere, and we're starting a little small. You know?
But we're not starting with a small book.
No, we're not starting with a small book. Would you like to say what book we're going to be starting
so today we are doing The Way of Kings.
That's right.
Pretty big deal. New series for the that I started reading in the whole Cosmere. So yeah, I mean, like, do we want to start with the spoiler-free review? That we
Let's
usually
start
do?
with our usual spoiler-free review. Go ahead.
So,
you just read
for
it.
me, I think it's one of the best out of all the Cosmere books I've read.
Yeah.
I love it very, very much. Admittedly, I was a little iffy.
Right. I was going to ask, like, what were you expecting going into this book? Because I know that this is not one that you wanted to read so soon. You wanted to put this one off because of how long it was for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that myself and another buddy of ours pushed you to reading it sooner.
Correct. So I would say I was worried that because it's so long, and Brandon is really good at his, like, the way he describes stuff and stuff like that, that I wasn't necessarily, like, too worried about it, but 1,000 words is not 1,000 words, 1,000 pages is 1,000 pages.
Exactly.
So it's a lot. And I was worried that it's just going to be too much. And I was incredibly wrong because it was paced extremely well.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where it's, like, kind of crazy that something like Elantris is paced so poorly and it's half the length.
Considering it's not anywhere near as long.
Right. So I thought it was paced really well. I mean, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, full disclosure, like, how long did it take you to read it?
How long did it take me to read The Way of
Because we know how long our buddy took to read it. It took a while.
When I first started reading The Way of Kings, I listened to it on Audible. And
Okay.
it took me maybe about a week to, like, fully listen to the whole thing.
Okay.
Because I remember I started it at work. I started listening to it at work on my break, and then when I got off my break, I was supposed to be cleaning the bathrooms, and I was listening to it while I was cleaning the bathrooms because I was like, oh my god,
Yeah,
this is so fire.
Right.
It's so good.
So, I mean, our buddy took a while.
Oh yeah, he took
I think
months and months and months.
eventually
purely
stopped
because,
he started doing the Audible one.
Yeah, it was purely because of, I think, the pacing of the first half of the book is much slower
Yeah.
than the second half of the book. I think that's pretty much what everybody says.
I honestly didn't feel that way. But
I don't feel that way either, but I can understand where people are coming from.
Yeah.
Majority of people are like, the first half of this book, necessarily, like, some people say it doesn't need to exist. I feel like that's kind of a a long shot, but I get what they're saying in
mean-
the sense that what happens in the first half is not nearly as important
Right.
as what happens in the second half. But I like the slower burn.
Yeah, I didn't even feel like it was a slow burn. Like, I thought the first half was pretty well paced enough to where, that wasn't like a big worry. But I mean, it took me like 3 weeks, and I don't do Audible, so I physically read everything.
Physically read everything.
So I don't know what that says about my.
I mean, I think you are a fast reader. Because I tend to read faster than like I listen as well. Like I can't listen to a book and read it at the same time because I'm going way ahead of the narrator.
Yeah.
But even that said, you are a crazy fast reader.
Yeah.
Like my girlfriend was about 300 pages ahead of you on what was it? On some book, and you caught up like
I think so.
like 100 pages behind in just like 2 or 3 days. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, all in all, I thought it was really good. I think it's one of my favorites that I've read so far. Like, pretty much on par with Hero of Ages, I think. Like, just
crazy good.
Solid.
Yeah.
Really good Sanderlanche, like everything.
Oh my god, the Sanderlanche. I think too because it has because it's such a big book, right? Like we said, it's 1,000 pages.
Right.
That's a huge book. Typical high fantasy series is half that.
Right, so the length of each of the Mistborn books, at least the first 3.
Mistborn is your typical high fantasy series. Way of Kings is literally double that.
Yeah.
Even more so.
Right.
So you're reading 1,000 pages to get that build up all at the end. It's just a beautiful payoff.
And it didn't really feel like... I don't think it's for all of the Brandon Sanderson books, but there are some, and I can see this being a criticism for some people, but it's a lot of setup for the ending to be the way it is. And I didn't really feel like... This was one of the few ones where it's like, it doesn't feel like this is all set up for the end. Like, it doesn't fully...
Yeah.
Like, it still needs to be good before the bow gets tied at the end, right? And something like Elantris, I think, kind of feels like that. But this didn't feel like that. The bow was, like, not 100% needed. I was still having a good time halfway through the book.
I think it... because the two of us are also very big fans of the series One Piece, right? And one of the best things about 100%. That series is that it takes its time. It doesn't rush really through any of its arcs. It likes to... You watch One Piece because you love the adventure, right? Everybody who catches up to that series is like, oh my god, I want this to be even longer. Kind of thing.
Right.
Because they want to stick with the characters in the world even more. And I kind of feel like that's Way of Kings. Like, that's the planet of Roshar.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, you're like, oh my god, I want to know even more about this place. Like, I want to stay on this chapter even longer to like learn more. But he doesn't quite give you that. Like, he gives you just a taste.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole book of the entire world, and then throughout the rest of the series is when he sprinkles more stuff in.
Right. And obviously, because this is supposed to be, it's going to be 10 books.
Yes, this will be 10 books, which is insane.
So he doesn't have to.
Right, yeah, he doesn't have to rush
a lot of
through
stuff.
anything.
No, not at all.
I mean, he can take his time, and I think that's part of the fun of this book is you just get to sit back and enjoy the adventure.
Yeah. So all in all, Way of Kings really
good. Yeah.
I guess before we go into spoiler territory, I did want to ask, because I know, you and our buddy were kind of like talking about, like, because you guys wanted me to read it really, really, really bad in terms of the order. Where do you sit on the order of the Cosmere argument for this one? Do you think that
for this one
you should start with this?
So, I mean, this is where I started with.
I know that's where you started, and I know that's where our buddy started.
This is where our buddy started. I went in a direction I would not recommend for anybody. I read all of Stormlight, and then I started to go into other series, and then I had to after I finished all the other series, I had to go back and reread a bunch of Stormlight stuff because there were Easter eggs or things I wouldn't have gotten before that I only got after reading all these other books, which is why I would not recommend that order for anybody else.
We definitely mentioned to our buddy that he should jump a little bit and do a couple things.
But
because there were a couple of the epigraphs in Way of Kings that I was just like, oh, I wouldn't have gotten that if I hadn't read this.
There's a lot of epigraphs in Way of Kings too.
But
that
Right.
people still don't understand.
True.
You know, which I think is something that's so amazing. I mean, this book came out in 2010 or
I think
2011.
so it's
right?
it's a 14-year-old book.
So 14-year-old book, and people are still trying to guess at what some of these epigraphs mean.
And they could be forever, because once Wind and Truth comes out, we're gonna wait
it
10
could be
years
even longer, right? Like some of these
for
epigraphs
6.
could be talking about things that don't happen until Stormlight Book 10,
Right.
which would just be insane, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I know there's one specifically that people are talking about for Wind and Truth, which is the 5th one coming out. People are trying to speculate. They're like, oh my gosh, does this have something to do with the plot of Wind and Truth?
interesting.
And we're not going to be able to talk about that
Right.
until you read
Get
the end
through.
of Rhythm of War, because the end of Rhythm of War is what sets up the plot of
Oh,
Wind
well,
and
you would
Truth.
think so. It's the 4th
right.
book.
So we won't be able to talk about it until then. But it'll be funny because we'll get to Rhythm of War, and then part of the discussion of Book 5 will be, hey, let's look back at this one little thing mentioned in Book 1.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So I think that's part of the fun of a series like that's as big as the Stormlight Archive as well, is like it drops hints for things so early on. And I'm going to say there's a bunch of hints in Way of Kings that reference a lot of events in the 2nd book as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's just a fun series. It's a fun book.
it's just really good. I think I think with Stormlight it blends all the he can do everything that he's pretty good at. He's good at writing like war stuff. He's good at writing really good humor.
Oh yeah, his humor I think peaks in the Stormlight Archive.
100%.
Actually, maybe I think it might peak in Mistborn Air 2. I've been listening a little bit again to
Okay.
Mistborn Air 2, but his humor is very, very good in the
up,
Stormlight
and
Archive.
it's- yeah.
He's
So
very witty.
yes, a little witty.
Yeah, a little witty. Oh.
But yeah, I think, and I think this one's got some of the best characters in the Cosmere period.
Yeah, if you are a sucker for good character writing, which who isn't, right? Like,
I mean, why are you reading these books if you're not?
why are you reading any book if you don't like good character writing?
Yeah.
But oh my
Really, why are
gosh.
you doing any piece of media, period?
Yeah. But the depth that he goes with these characters is more than you get in any previous work.
So do we want? Okay, so because we haven't gotten into spoilers, do we want?
but
Do we want to talk about?
one less spoiler-free thing,
Yeah.
right? Like, because I mean, he wrote Mistborn and Warbreaker before Wave Kings, I believe, right?
Oh,
and
okay.
Those have at least Era 1, Mistborn, and Warbreaker and Elantris, right? And nobody's arguing that the characters in those books are bad by any means.
But you can tell the evolution of his writing.
In Stormlight, he is able to go so much more in depth to the character and their personality and their flaws and their evolution than he ever did in those previous books, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just so good, and he has more characters in Stormlight too than he ever did in the other books.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. This is. It's funny. I like because. I carry around the hardcovers. Before we go into the spoiler territory, this is actually the longest spoiler-free section we've had.
I know we're doing pretty good, I think.
I have the hardcovers, so I carry around like the big ass one. So everybody's like, "What the fuck are you carrying around?"
Just a
huge ass book. But what the fuck was my point?
Just carrying around this huge.
I'm carrying around
book.
this huge book. I just wanted to show the ego off. Oh my god, what? Crap, what was my point?
I think we distracted ourselves because we said this is the longest spoiler-free review.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, when every other spoiler-free review has been 5. Okay. Yeah.
So everybody's like, "What are you reading?" And like, I don't. It's hard for me to describe stuff to people because I'm very much I like going in blind with media. So I don't like giving summaries.
Right.
Because I'm the type that's just I'm going to pick up the book and read it, and if I don't like it,
It can also be hard
I'll
to decide
never
where to
touch it
start with the summary too, right?
So I usually just say it's Game of Thrones without sex.
Yeah.
That's basically
it pretty
what
much
it is.
yeah.
And
Game of Thrones without spice in general, really.
no,
like
there's some violence in it.
no spice as in like no spicy, sexy, like nothing
Which,
really.
It's kind of funny, like I never like minded it with Game of Thrones, and I don't mind it. Like I'm not like, ugh, how dare they? But I definitely realized that there's definitely some points in Game of Thrones where
It does. It's
pretty unnecessary.
Another
After reading this.
another non-spoiler thing to mention, I guess, as well. If you are a fan of like spicy things,
Yeah, there's
like
nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with that. there's not much of that in this book.
Yeah, so if you're
So if you are a
doing
fan of that
for
stuff
this-
and you want to go into the series, then know that you're going in
Not
to
yet.
something.
Not yet.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of spicy stuff.
Yeah.
And really any of his works besides Warbreaker.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's romance. But even then,
No-
that's something that that's something that he's trying to work on as a writer, is include more romance in his stories.
Right.
That's something he did with Tress of the Emerald
True.
Sea, which was a gift for his wife. You know,
Right.
I think his wife is always telling him like,
You need more romance
you
in
need
your
more
stuff.
romance in your
Yeah.
stories, and so that's something he's been working on.
But there is, we'll get to it in Way of Kings, because I thought it was quite interesting, because he's still like, it's Game of Thrones without sex, but he's still, you know what, I'll just say a funny statement, so when we get back to it,
Yeah, but
he got around, it's Game of Thrones without sex, but he still got around the he did his own way of like possible incest type thing.
Sure, but I don't think it's as it's definitely not.
No,
like
it's not.
George R. R. Martin.
No,
levels.
it's not. But it was kind of funny that I was just like, so that was his workaround.
Yeah, he's got
Nice.
he's got to work around. George R. R. Martin needs no workaround.
No, he doesn't. He
threw that shit in Elden Ring. Did you hear about that?
yeah. Doesn't every character like have sex with each other,
In
or all
Elden
the
Ring?
villains or whatever?
So like, there's some gay incestual stuff in
Okay.
Elden Ring, which George R. R. Martin just loves that kind of flavoring for his stories.
I don't know why. Not that it's like, what is it? I don't know what it adds.
It's just an interesting like mark for him as a writer.
I
you know,
guess.
to include that sort of thing.
I don't know.
But anyway, if you're looking for any spicy stuff or like heavy romance stuff, and you're going into Way of Kings, just know that you're not going to get that in this book.
Yeah.
But he has been working on it in his other works as
True.
of recent.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, I don't know.
I think
I'm saying
I think
true.
personally that's one downside for Brandon Sanderson and me, because I went into the Cosmere after reading works by like Sarah J. Maas, who's a notorious spicy romance writer.
Right.
So that was one thing I was definitely missing going into Way of Kings,
Yeah.
was like some good romance. Mm-hmm. But I think we can end the spoiler free talks.
I think we can end the spoiler-free talks
since
with.
that's by far our longest
There's
spoiler
no
free
sex.
talks. Yeah, no
Are you gonna be
sex.
okay?
Are you gonna be okay? Can you
That's
handle
gonna be
that?
that's gonna be the cold open. Is there's no sex?
No
Are you gonna
sex.
be okay?
Yeah. That's a good title of the episode.
The Way of Kings review. There's gonna be no sex.
No sex.
So, spoiler territory. What do we want to cover first?
I mean, I guess we said we wanted to try and cover it in parts, right? But
Do you remember like what happens?
But then
in
it's like
part to
what
part?
happens specifically and part
Problem
to
is,
part.
is that everything's basically. It's been a while since I've read it. Not a while to where I'm like I don't remember anything.
Sure.
But it's basically all just one blob, as opposed to
Well, then maybe we should
ingredients in it.
Maybe we should cover it character by character.
Okay.
Right.
So
Do you want to start with the smallest character in this book that could be considered main character, being Zeth?
okay. Yeah. So
Since the book kind of begins with him.
Yes.
But
it's
in the second prologue, the book begins
Oh
with this
my God,
character.
yeah.
This book has two prologues.
Yes.
One that takes place
It's a
thousands,
prelude and a
Yeah, a
prologue.
prelude and a prologue. The prelude takes place thousands of years before events, and then the
Yes.
prologue takes place 5 years before events. 6,
8.
8 years before.
Oh my God, we don't have our phones on us because
No.
you're recording on phones. Our cameras are on phones right now.
I want to say 5.
We can't fact check, and
Let's
we
say
don't have an
5 or
intern to
6.
fact check.
Right. Either way,
Yes.
not thousands of years before. It takes place a few years before
Yes.
main events. But the prologue begins with Zeth.
Yes.
So do you want to open up about that?
Yes. So Zeth, the assassin in white, the
Yeah, the assassin in white.
killer of the king. So I mean, I think it's funny. I actually started reading the book like a year ago, actually before I read everything else,
Yeah, and you
then
had
I
read
stopped.
that prologue.
And I read the
Yeah, you
prologue.
got like a few chapters in, and then you stopped because you were doing other things.
But there is one line that I will never forget from the prologue, which is the like him kind of saying like, "I want to wear white because I want everybody to see me,"
Yeah.
which I don't.
Yeah.
I wonder what that goes into
Yeah,
because the big thing is him assassinating Gavilar, the
I don't
king
know if they
at the time.
specifically mention the specific reasoning for why he's wearing white. They do get into it later, but he does mention like some kind of tradition of wearing white
For the-
as an assassin.
Oh, okay.
Because
It's not his people.
he needs to stand
Shin.
out. It's not a Shin thing. At some
Okay.
point, they go into it, but yeah, like it's some kind of tradition for whoever hired him to do that.
Okay.
Sort of thing. That like, hey,
Interesting.
if you're gonna assassinate somebody, you need to wear white to like, kind of like a fair game sort of thing.
Weird.
It's weird.
But it's cool.
It is cool
Because it's the whole conspiracy
Assassin
theory
who
thing.
wore white,
Yeah.
like that.
Well, because I like the fact that there's like a lot of conspiracy in this.
Oh yeah, like
I love a good old conspiracy.
who doesn't love a good old conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
This is like totally like who shot JFK thing. Like, was it like the
Right.
Who hired
Yeah,
was it the
who
CIA?
hired
CIA
assassin in
was
white
it
for
the government
to kill King Gavilar?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, it makes you kind of go into that. And obviously towards the end you kind of see who hired him and who's
At least who has
who's
his
next
hands
target.
on him
Yes.
right now.
Yes.
Right. So
But yes, I thought Zeth was really cool. I like a good old character that's crazy and the voices are telling him to do
he's
stuff.
insane.
And he doesn't want to do the things the voices
he
are telling
does
him.
not want to do the things the voices tell
But
him.
it's just so like he's such a sad character too because
Oh, yeah.
the amount of times where it's just like because what is it? It's the oath stone. He
His oath
has to
stone.
do whatever the guy that's holding the oath stone tells him to do, and it's just like that's just so sad
I know.
because it sounds like the Shin are very peaceful people.
Yeah. From what we know of them, they are supposed to be very like peaceful. A very peaceful culture.
So it's such a like no for
Yeah.
him that he is like the craziest assassin in the entirety of the planet from what it seems
Right.
like, at least that we know of.
Yeah, that's
And-
definitely how he's portrayed. At the beginning of the book, like, oh my god, this is the most dangerous man on the planet. Perhaps, like
At
he
least
is insane.
in
and
the
he has
Leptar-
magical powers that lets him stick to the wall,
stick to walls and stick other things to walls.
And he has a
and-
shard blade that can sever people's souls.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I like the fact that he added in the interludes and stuff like that because I think
Yeah, he appears in interludes. throughout
yes,
the book.
that's the main thing.
And some of those interludes, he's just doing absolutely wild things, like fighting multiple shard bearers
at the same
time and handling it like a champ,
Right.
like really just annihilating them.
Yeah. Which makes you
So
wonder.
It's just like it just goes to show even further, like, oh, this guy like really just
He's cracked.
he's cracked at the game.
Yeah.
He has it on lock. He
Where
he's
does he
the
get
best.
it?
Yeah, he's the best player
at
in
what
the
he does.
game, you know?
Like, yeah, I don't know. But yes, Zeth. I think Zeth is cool. I would assume he's gonna have a bigger role in
it's
the
like
next
it's
book.
almost like if you got to see Jaime Lannister fight a lot more in Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
right? Because Jaime Lannister was supposed to be like the best swordsman
guy.
around, and he loses his hand super early in the series. But it's like if you had seen Jaime Lannister fight a lot more, you would have been like, oh yeah, there's nobody.
No.
Nobody can match him, right? And that's
Yeah.
basically Zeth. Like
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, nobody's touching him. He's just that good.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm very interested to kind of see where he goes because obviously, like we had said that towards the end of the book, we kind of figure out who his next target is based off of
Yeah, we do.
somebody who we'll talk about in the Shalon section
Sure.
that hired him, and it's one of the other characters, one of the other major characters.
Yeah.
So obviously, I would think he's going to show up in words.
Yeah, when I
Radiance.
first heard about this book, and I read like the summary on the back, like they make it out like an assassin, a soldier, a general, and then like a painter, like all blah blah blah, do things to save the world. And so like when I first was getting into it, I was like, oh, these four are gonna like team up at some point and like do all these things. It's like no, these are all just four people who are going to have a major impact on the world.
They're going to cross paths at some point.
At like in one way or another, and not necessarily cross paths working together, but cross paths like
well,
in some form or
hey,
fashion.
I
right?
mean, there's
Right, but I'm just
there's
saying,
10
at first,
books in total,
at
and you
first
don't know.
I was like, oh, cool, like an assassin, like a general, like this is gonna be such a cool team dynamic. And then the the beginning of the book opens up with the assassin
murdering
like
king.
bringing about this global war for the most powerful kingdom on the planet, and it's like, oh,
Right.
whoa.
Yeah.
I
So
don't think this is going in the direction I thought it was.
but I enjoy the fact that he added in the interludes, because then we still get like a little bit of character growth, even though Zeth really is not. I assume he's not going to be really that. He wasn't that important in this book.
No, he's really not that important in the first book.
Obviously he's probably going to be important in the next book, right? But this still gives him some character setup.
Oh, yeah.
For the next book.
I think it gives him great character setup. And as we started saying, he's the least important character in this book.
Yeah.
And he has some insane character moments in this book. You know,
Yeah.
like you learn a lot about Zeth as a person just in this first book.
Totally, he has like 5 chapters.
Yeah, when all you get is some inner monologue stuff.
Yeah.
And some action scenes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So yeah, I think all in all, Zeth's really cool. I'm interested in the future of him.
Yeah, very cool character.
So we want to jump on.
I think since we're going like,
Do you want to do
probably least important? Do you want to go to then maybe your least favorite character of the book? Because I think we both agree.
POV wise?
Yeah, POV wise. Because there's 3 main POVs in this book.
Yeah, there's 3 main POVs. Well, Adolin doesn't really do a lot.
He's not necessarily a main POV either.
No, which is weird because
in this
the book is listed that he is the main POV, but Dalinar actually has more of the POVs in Adolin's POV. That's weird.
It is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Adolin becomes a more prevalent point of view character later in the series.
I figured.
But in this book, it's really is more Dalinar's story.
Yeah.
So it's a little odd.
I mean, I like Adolin. I just need.
Oh, yeah.
I need a little bit more. Mm-hmm. He's still like that classic, you know.
Yeah, very like haughty,
stoic.
Yeah, he's
ego,
stoic. Yeah, got a big
young
ego
guy,
on him.
Yeah,
like thinks he's
hotshot.
I mean, he thinks he's hot, and he is hot. But like, yeah, you know.
But yeah, I mean, I thought Adolin was cool, but it's definitely. I think I'm gonna need more. Mm-hmm. I think maybe to really talk about him. I mean, I think he.
Yeah, you only really get.
I mean, I know he seems like a pretty good.
He
seems like a pretty good older brother.
Yeah, like he doesn't seem like a bad person.
No,
right?
but
in this book,
definitely
like he just seems like a good person with some definite character flaws.
Yeah, So I would agree. So I guess the main 3 we wanted to talk about are Dalinar, Shallan, and Kaladin.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk about? Well, I guess we'll just talk about Dalinar.
We're going to talk about Dalinar.
Yeah, let's just talk about Dalinar.
Yeah, let's talk about Dalinar.
One of the best general characters, I think, like general, as in like military general, not in general.
Sure.
I think I've ever read.
Okay.
Just solid.
Yeah.
All around. I think he's just really. He's really good, and I like a good monologue, and he is pretty good.
Oh my god.
Well, a good. Is it a monologue when you have like the call to arms type thing? I guess it's a monologue.
Yeah, I think so.
And he had a pretty good one.
Yeah.
At the end.
Oh, at the end of the
really
book?
good.
Oh my god, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to jump straight into the end of the book with Dalinar.
Well, okay, we don't have to jump straight in, but so I mean, I think what I like about him is he's feeding into the conspiracy, the other half of the conspiracy. You know,
right,
Zeth is feeding into the whole like secret society conspiracy.
Like who hired Zeth to kill the king, sort of thing, right? Like, was it from within the kingdom? Was it from outside the kingdom? Like, was it this guy, that guy?
Yeah. Where Dalinar's feeding into the planet as a whole.
Right. Like what is going on
conspiracy.
On a global scale, not necessarily a kingdom scale.
With his little whatever the fuck is going on in the high storms. I
think the 2 things that really stand out with Dalinar the most are obviously the fact that he has visions.
Yeah.
Right? A high storm rolls around and he'll just straight up go into this comatose state where he gets visions that he has no control of and show him things that he doesn't quite understand.
And you on the outside can only hear the one-sided part of the conversation.
Right, yeah. The outside people can only hear his words.
Yeah.
And not only that, but his words are in
different languages.
Total different language that nobody understands.
Correct.
Right? Like
they're probably
knows
an extinct language.
What language he is speaking.
Yeah.
And then the other thing with Dalinar too that they don't really cover in this book is that he cannot hear his wife's name. He does not remember the name of his wife.
Yes, because it was a curse with the
he doesn't really
Night Watcher.
remember her as a person at all.
Because I
like
think they mentioned
he remembers she existed. He remembers they had kids together.
Yeah.
He does not remember her, anything about her, like what she looked like, you know. Yeah. So there's some
because they say explicitly that it was like there was a curse with the Night Watcher.
Yeah, he says there was a curse with the Night Watcher,
but he doesn't say that that's what it was. That it was that he can't remember his wife's name. But like I think you as a reader can kind of go.
We put two and two together, and I think that he knows that that's what it is as well.
Or is his wife the Night Watcher? Oh
that's
my God!
Conspiracy. You don't want to pick up your
No, I don't want to pick up my
for that one.
Where is it? His wife is the Night Watcher.
Yeah, whoa, that's a pretty crazy one.
No, that one's kind of obvious. That doesn't need a tinfoil hat, I feel like.
No, as you're wearing it.
If it's not, either that or his wife is just some like, what the fuck could his wife be?
Get to Oathbringer and you'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, you got some more reading.
I got to speed through. Well, I mean, yeah. So, but yes, I really like Dalinar. I think he's really cool because I think he's a pretty
a super cool character.
Super cool character.
They talk about the thrill a lot too.
Yes.
From his point of view, and you know, Dalinar is the general of the Alethi, which are these very hungry, warmongering people. Yeah. I guess like their culture is very based around war, you know. And
to
violence.
A sport degree.
Yeah, almost to like it's a sport.
It's very interesting how he wrote their war effort.
I believe Brandon wanted to model them after the Mongolians.
Okay.
Like at the height of their empire.
That makes sense.
And so Dalinar is like the ultimate general of the Alethi. And, you know,
Genghis Khan without all the...
Yeah, exactly. But like in his youth, you know, like they allude to the fact that he did like horrible things and killed like...
Yeah, when he was
many
the
people,
Blackthorn.
when he was the Blackthorn.
Yeah.
Like, and even then, still in the Shattered Plains, he's still killing all these Parshendi and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think what's really interesting about his character is throughout the book, he enjoys it less and less, and even starts to realize he doesn't enjoy it, and that it begins to disgust him.
Yes.
Right? There are moments where he finds himself on the battlefield, like holding
questioning,
like this sick feeling after like killing all these people. He's like, oh my God, like what have I done?
Yeah.
Like the thrill just kind of vanishes from him.
Right.
He's like, oh my gosh, like what happened to the thrill? Like, why do I feel this way? Like he feels horrible. And he begins questioning like, why did I kill these people? Like, what are we even doing here?
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Well, because I think
you really see him start to develop as a character just in this book as well, and question just the morals of everything they're doing.
Well, because I think, at least for the final three we're talking about, Brandon's really good with this internal struggle for all three of them.
Oh yeah.
Very hardcore, because I think seeing him, Dalinar, kind of go into the trying to he's losing the thrill of war, and he's having that iffy, sick feeling to it. It's probably because the king, before he was assassinated, supposedly had some peace talks with the Parshendi.
Yeah, his brother.
Yes, his brother. Yes, Dalinar was the brother of the king, so he's now the current king's uncle. But the former king wanted to figure some culture things out for the Parshendi.
Yeah, it seemed like the former king was trying to
almost interested, to a degree, obsessed even. What it sounds like,
a little obsessive.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it makes you wonder if Dalinar's starting to have that obsession, and that's why he feels sick. Just oh my God, I'm killing these people, and I'm realizing they're not there's something up. But
one of the last things his brother told him too was, you must find the most important words a man can say.
Yeah.
And that is a big part of Dalinar's belief in this book. It was alluded to in the first book that he was, well, not alluded to, he straight up says, I believe, that he was drunk on the night that his brother died.
Yeah,
and
so
that's why
he feels guilty about it.
That's why he abandoned drinking and decided to stick to the codes.
Yeah.
Right? And started reading The Way of Kings, which is the in-world book.
Yeah.
And so Dalinar is really trying to model his whole lifestyle now after that book because of his guilt for the way he acted on the night his brother died. And I think that just the morals that he is learning from that book and this way of living really start to impact him, as he is, the longer he stays on the Shattered Plains.
Right.
He's just really starting to see how pointless all this violence is, how pointless the wartime culture of the Alethi is, like
Well, because it turns into a game. Like it's
exactly.
Like, I thought it was
For all
very
the others,
interesting.
the princes, the high princes, it's a sport for
It's a
them.
sport, yeah. Like it's kind of funny that they're like almost competing with each other to kill all these people
and
then
Dalinar's
steal
trying
the
to
gem
convince
hearts.
them. He's like, we're not a united kingdom. We're 10 princedoms, all like
Playing a game.
Yeah, playing a game, trying to
Yeah.
see who can become. Like, we need to unite to become the full
Might.
Alethkar empire
Yeah.
or kingdom. To face whatever these visions are trying to.
Whatever,
like he
yeah.
senses this looming danger on the horizon, sort of
looming.
thing.
Yeah, and yeah, because some of those visions were weird, like him like fighting. What was what they were saying was the Void Bringers and stuff like that.
Yeah, like presumably Voidbringers and like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all types of weird visions, like pretty much doing everything to signal him of like impending doom.
Screaming danger.
Yeah.
Danger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought all around he was like a really cool character.
And I think I love how it all comes to a beautiful moment at the end.
Yes.
With his
sacrifice.
sacrifice.
But we'll get into that with
You want to get into that later?
the final person.
Okay. It's about Shallan.
We're going to talk about Shallan.
Okay.
So I think Shallan was really cool. I think Shallan's going to get better.
She just gets better.
I would think she
Oh my
gets
God,
better.
she just gets better and better. She's such a good character.
So the last two, are really well done, and you can tell that Bryn did his research for, I guess, the mentality that both of them have.
Yeah.
Whether I can say, Kaladin has like a mental illness.
Kaladin definitely has depression.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Shallan, might just be like a low confidence. I don't think it's like a.
She does, and it becomes more evident throughout the books.
Yeah.
The same with like Kaladin's depression. It becomes more evident throughout the books. You start to learn more the way they think. But yeah, Shallan does as well. It's just not very clear in this first book.
Right.
It's
It's
much more
just low confidence. It seems
this first
like.
book is kind of introducing Kaladin mainly as a character and
Yeah.
his mental struggle, and then the second book kind of introduces
Shallan's.
mental
Okay.
struggle.
Okay.
So yeah, you learn more about it in the next one.
But I thought hers was cool because hers is playing more into the kind of the Zeth conspiracy a little bit. But her going to work as a ward for
The King's sister.
the king's sister Yasna, who
Yeah.
I think is super dope. I do
She's
like
awesome.
Yasna a lot.
Yeah.
I just think she's really cool because she just like talks circles around everybody around her.
Yeah, no, she takes zero
Because
shit
like
from anybody.
she's just trying to live her life. She just wants to have the belief she wants to have, and they're just like,
Yeah.
"Can you we're just trying to convert you," and it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm good."
That's an aspect I never thought about of you connecting to Yasna, though. Because Yasna is very much she's an atheist in her own world, right? And she has no problems with religion personally, right? Like, if people want to believe, that's fine.
Yeah.
But she does have to deal with being a part of the royal family. And religion is a big part of the Alethi culture.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people kind of see her as a heretic, and a lot of the priests try to convert her into that Vorin religion. And she has to deal with that a lot. And she's like, listen, man, I don't want to be part of it. Like, you can do it. Like, my family can do it. I love that they love it, right?
This is
but
not for
she's
me.
like, it's not for me.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's,
I
I know
think
that's
she-
something that you too personally, like,
Yeah.
you're not, I don't know if you're necessarily an atheist, but you don't like it when people try to force.
I don't like the forcing.
Yeah.
And
Their
everybody's
beliefs.
definition of forcing is different.
Sure.
But for me, like, my definition is,
Right.
It's whatever. But
I didn't realize that
Yeah.
you two would have that common similarity where
Yeah.
it's like you really despise anybody forcing beliefs
right, because it's
on you or others. Which, I mean, who doesn't? But like, yeah,
So that's why I do like Yasna a lot, and I just think she's.
she definitely owns people too that try to do it. Like,
Oh
she
yeah, because there's
roasts the hell out of them.
the one scene. It's like the one where it's like Teravangian and her at the table, and he's doing his like weekly trying to convert her.
Yeah.
And he asked like Shallan, I think, to draw him, and she was like, "Dude, I'm not doing this." And it is kind of funny because you do almost listen to I mean, obviously you're listening to Shallan because it's her point of view, And it's very interesting kind of hearing how Shallan looks at it, where it's like, why the fuck is, like, does Yasna just not subscribe to this? Like, it's very odd for me.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And me as Shallan kind of thing. Because you just kind of do it. But that's just the way that Shallan was kind of taught. And
Exactly.
that's where Yasna's kind of just like, nah, I'm just...
Yeah, Yasna, I think ever since childhood has been very much of the idea that she does things her own way. I mean,
I think
there are times where even later in the series, Navani always talks about, like, yeah, Yasna kind of just raised herself. Like, like, she would not let me mother her.
I think she kind of mentions it a little bit.
Yeah, like
it's not that she has like a bad relationship with Navani, but
she's just a very independent person from
which is funny because on the flip side, her brother Elhokar, very much like you can tell he
dependent person.
And I do like the fact that Brandon doesn't make it so explicit, but it's pretty obvious that Elhokar was a mama's boy. Like it's kind of hardcore. Yeah, it's pretty obvious. You know, based off of the, oh my god, they're going to assassinate me every 5 seconds. And it's like, dude, chill.
Some crazy
chill, bro.
paranoia.
I mean, somebody is, but chill.
Yeah, but chill. Isn't that kind of funny? Elhokar throughout the whole book is like, oh my god, like people are trying to assassinate me. And then by the end of the book, it's like,
dude, oh, wait.
Dude.
Like, come on. God, we're good. Oh, wait, people are? But still.
People are, but also you're crazy.
But anyway, back to Shallan.
Yeah.
I like Shallan's little quirk of drawing. I think it's one of the coolest things.
It is super cool.
I just like it a lot. They're like, I don't know why, it's just really cool. And it leads to the fact that there's, you know, I don't know if this is like that for the trade paperbacks, but I know the hardcovers have, not like the super fancy hardcovers, but the regular hardcovers have her drawings.
I believe they do.
Like spaced throughout. And
it's some good artwork.
It's just a unique thing. I just like it a lot.
Especially the way it kind of reveals things in this first book too. Like when she's drawing that portrait of Taravangian, she's drawing it like unconsciously in a way, like subconsciously. And she's kind of drawing it while just listening to the conversation. And she looks down at her paper. She realized she drew Taravangian. And there's like a bunch of symbol-headed figures behind him.
Yes.
And then she's like, oh my god, like... What did I just do? What is that? And then she starts seeing them and things throughout the book, and it's like, is she going insane?
Oh yeah, well, like one of my favorite chapters from the book.
To her? What is happening? Yeah. Like it almost becomes like a horror-esque.
Yeah, one of my favorite chapters from the book is the Blood Goblet chapter, where she accidentally turns, like she's flipping her shit.
She gets her hands on the Soulcaster
and like is just running around, but while she keeps on like drawing like really quickly, and they're like slowly catching up to her.
Yeah,
and I know you haven't watched Doctor Who, but that gives me like almost like a fantasy version of like the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who.
I heard of the
where
Weeping
it's like
Angels.
Constantly like if you look at like you know they stop,
but then if you turn away
but it gives that kind of vibe. And hey, it wouldn't be a Lost in the Cosmere podcast if we didn't fucking mention Threnody. If he's gonna write like I mean I was scared shitless with that chapter.
Oh yeah, if he's gonna write a Threnody book that has those vibes in it, like.
So good, please. But anyway, we got it. Yep. So back to Shallan before we talk about Threnody for 30 minutes.
What a great character.
Really good character, and I think she'll get
her
whole,
get better. Arc in this first book being like, I gotta save my family.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Let me go to the most powerful woman in the world and steal one of the most powerful items on the planet from her, and that'll save my family, right? It's like.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Queen, go on.
But it's the dumbest thing.
It's the dumbest thing imaginable.
Okay, go for it.
If that's what you want to do it. And then, like, as the book goes on, you're like, oh my god, she's probably going to do it.
She might do it.
Yeah, like, she's going to do it.
She might do it.
And, like, she starts to get along with Yasna, too. And she's like, man, like, I don't want to steal this from her.
Yeah.
And then Yasna kills 2 people in front of her.
And she's like,
this woman's insane.
Yeah.
Like, she should not have that power.
I know, Yasna, like, kind of ended them, too. I just like Yasna, man.
That's why you like Yasna?
Yeah.
Yasna's whole, like, moral philosophy is, they were going to rob me, so I killed them.
But
like, but you sought after them to rob you, and it's like, yeah, but they were going to do it, so... She's just like so unwavering, and Shallan's like,
I mean, I don't necessarily 100% agree with her seeking after it in men, but they were going to rob her.
Yeah, so why not turn them into fairy dust kind of thing?
She did turn them into fairy dust. One of them she like froze solid, and then did she like push him over?
The other one she basically turned into gas. Like she just...
Jeez.
eviscerated them.
Oh my god.
And
Yeah.
to Shalon's horror,
Right.
like Shalon was, yeah, she was losing it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Shalon's really cool. I think she's like, you know, like kind of that classic little timid and that low confidence. So it'll be interesting to kind of see as she goes on how she kind of
I feel like there's
clearly is
also-
going to grow into.
There's also a lot of mystery in this first book surrounding Shalon and her as a person in her past.
Yes, we don't
as
really go
well.
into it at all.
I mean, by the end
Like,
of the
at
book,
all.
she mentions that she tells the truth, right? She gives the truth that she killed her father when she has that confrontation with Yasna.
yes.
She's like, I killed my father. And that like takes her to the other plane, and she kind of forces Yasna's confession that Yasna never needed the soulcaster to use the magic and thing.
Yeah.
So like that's like a really dark part of Shalon's past that
bit.
we still know almost nothing about.
She's like 17.
But also, there's a scene.
she's super
but
young
Back
in
to the
that.
scene where she's being chased by those creatures. Do you remember what she does when she gets to her room? It's like a very brief moment, but she takes an action, right? And it's a very specific action to the
This
series.
isn't done D&D.
I don't know.
Takes
No,
an
she
action.
takes an action.
Roll the
No,
dice.
no, but she does something.
Doesn't she
that's-
wait for 10?
She holds out her hand.
Yes, she
Right?
holds out her hand.
And briefly mentions
10 heartbeats.
10 heartbeats.
Yes.
Right? And it's a very quick scene, so you might not catch it immediately, or you might not think of it.
did remember.
Right?
Yeah, I do
But that
remember
is the thing. It's like, holy shit. Does this woman
hold
have a
on.
fucking shard blade?
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like
So clearly.
that's a very distinct action and thing to think, right? Like,
of it.
yeah, like, you know, so it's like, this woman killed her father. She probably has a shard blade.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
she has some kind of magical powers because she's seeing these weird creatures, and you know, she's able to
drawings.
travel to a different plane of existence by the
Right.
end of the series.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is going on with this girl? Like, she is nuts.
I know.
You know, like, so I just love the mystery that her character has.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
I mean, yeah, I would think that that's going to go up in the next few books. But you know whose full mystery didn't? Isn't like kept hidden. Wow, that was said so well. Whose history isn't so well hid is good old Kaladin.
Kaladin, what a transition! What a segue!
I love Kaladin, dude. One of my favorite characters in the Cosmere.
So I've been telling Cullen for a while that I think his favorite character in the Cosmere will end up being Wax from Mistborn Era 2. But when he started reading White Kings, I was like, yeah, like I still think Wax will be your favorite.
But Kaladin will be close.
But I
too.
just know you're gonna love Kaladin.
Yeah,
Like I just know you're gonna love Kaladin, because Kaladin, he's just a great. I mean, who doesn't love Kaladin, right? But I know Kaladin's a very Cullen-coded character, where he like, what is it about Kaladin? Like Kaladin's like, you know, he doesn't really take shit from people.
No.
Right. But he also does like the F around a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, with people. Like if somebody's being snarky to him, he just loves to be snarky right back.
So what I like about Kaladin, and I think it'll probably grow with the other books, because by the end of it he's grown, but he hasn't grown a lot.
Yeah, very true.
Is that Brandon did his research. I don't have depression, right? I think everybody struggles with the kind of low confidence in themselves type thing, and I know I have that like a lot. I don't know how many times I've had lines like where it's just like I'm gonna fail them again type thing, and he says that all the time. Like he doesn't, when he lets himself go, he's like who he really is. And I like that Brandon kind of like has that in there when he's like with the guys, with the Bridge 4 crew, and he's actually like letting himself be himself. It's
Right.
that's who he is, but
Right.
then it shelters
And
it.
yeah, when he's surrounded by Bridge 4 initially, I mean, like, they're in slavery, right? They all think they're gonna die.
Yeah, they're
right?
ragtag slavery.
Kaladin
Yeah.
like shows them there's a way out
Right.
in a way. Like there is a good sense to
Yeah.
like, hey, like pull yourselves out of the mud, like fight for your life, sort of thing. And then once
But
he convinces
still
them,
is in his own mind.
right? Once he convinces them they can live, they kind of help bring him out of it a little bit too.
Yeah.
But Kaladin, yeah, like you said, when he's around them, like he gets to be himself. Like if he just like he's with them, he forgets about his own troubles and worries for a little bit. And yeah, that's Kaladin. That's who he really is. But then yeah, Kaladin is his character too, where if he's alone for too long,
It's not.
you know, he's left with his own thoughts. Like things can get really dark really quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, one of the first things Kaladin almost does in this book is commit suicide,
Yeah.
right?
Pretty early on.
He is staring down a chasm in the rain, and the only thing that stops him from plummeting in is Syl,
Syl, yeah.
who we don't know at the time is Syl, right? She's just a little windspread that's been following him. But, you know, she hands him this, like, poisonous plant, right? That he earlier had been holding on to just in case he wanted to, like, end it all, right?
Yeah.
And she hands it to him as he's about to jump into the chasm, and he's like, this creature clearly does not understand what this leaf means, but she's giving it to me for, like, this reason, that, like, this message to be like, hey, maybe don't jump into that chasm. Right? Like,
Yeah.
like
it's the irony of her giving
the
that.
irony of the situation kind of snaps him out of it a little bit. But he's still this character that even when he's alone, like he's still faced with that chasm.
Yeah.
Right? He's still like you said, like, I'm going to fail them again. I'm not going to be strong enough. I'm not going to be able to do this sort of thing. Like he is a like you said,
Brandon did his research.
I don't have depression either, but
I think everybody has those moments.
thoughts.
Maybe not as deep.
Yeah, exactly. The way he portrays Kaladin in those moments,
It's the clear deep.
yeah, is very like that deep rooted feeling
Yeah.
of dread almost, and I
Yes.
think it's very well done. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. So I mean, but it's still like just. I think all in all, he's still a very inspiring story, and I mean, it's still.
Oh yeah, he's incredibly inspiring.
It's going to go up from there, you know. But I mean, you look at the beginning of the book and you look at where he is at the end of the first book alone. He is at probably the lowest possible point in his fucking life, and especially when you finally get to the final couple like flashback chapters for him. Like,
It's
you realize
rough.
how low he really was at the beginning.
yeah.
You don't realize how low he was in the beginning. Like, his brother just died, and
brother
his
just died.
friends were murdered in front of him by his general, who he...
General that he admired. Yeah, killed all of his friends.
So he is, like, so severely at the beginning of, like... You learn it with...
Yeah.
Like, the audience almost learns it towards the end. And I think Brandon having that at the end was so perfect. Because it was funny, because
You can see how
in
low
the
he is at
flashbacks
the
it skips
beginning,
it.
but by the end, you can know in Kaladin's own head how low he was.
How low
right?
he was, yeah.
So you might just see it visually, but then by the end, you can feel how low he was.
It's a good
right?
contrast, because
Yeah.
when you're reading the flashbacks, right, because they are basically in order until the end, I think. I think at a certain point the flashbacks stop, and then it skips ahead of when he was in the army, and you're like, oh, so we're not going to know what happened, like what explicitly happened to Tien. Is that how
Tien's his brother, yeah.
But it's like, oh no, the last two flashbacks are really what leads to this severe low point, contrasted with the last kind of couple of Kaladin chapters, which I think is just the last Kaladin chapter of him going, no, we got to go back and we have to save this guy, paired with the flashback of Amaram
And betraying him and
Dalinar giving up Oathbringer
yeah.
to fucking Sadius, that fucking asshole.
Yeah. One of the other scenes I
Yeah.
really love from Kaladin's perspective is I love the scene where he gets hung out in the storm.
Yes.
I think that scene is awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, all the bridge crew truly admires him, and it's like, this guy is like
He's the guy.
he's the guy.
He's the
right?
guy.
But even Teft like expects to go out that morning after the storm and see his body hanging there.
Yeah.
Right? Like even Teft, like there's a small part of him that's like, I hope he's alive. But he's like, he expects to go out there
Yeah.
and see Kaladin's dead body.
Right.
Right. So for him to go out there and be like, oh my God,
He's alive.
this guy's alive.
Yeah.
He just was hung out to dry during a high storm.
Right.
Right? And lived. These are the storms that are tossing boulders around casually, you know? Like, these are literally our world's version of Cat 5, Cat 6 hurricanes.
Yeah, and they just happen, like, weekly.
They happen weekly. And Kaladin was just hung out in the middle of one, and he
Yeah.
lived. You know?
With like nothing.
So
He was just
for
like
the bridge crew to
Yeah.
see that, right? Yeah, with like his
He's just strung
it's
up.
like his skin exposed, like his
yeah,
bare
he's like
skin,
an under
you know?
like he's
Yeah,
in
exactly.
loincloth.
Exactly. Yeah. Like,
And he's got
so for his
nothing,
bridge crew
yeah.
to come out there and see him alive, it's like it's just confirmation. It's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this guy is not human, right? And another kind of sick and twisted part of that is it reinforces Kaladin's personal idea that he needs to be even better, right? He needs to live up to the expectation.
But he literally just did like
He did.
He just did a miracle.
He did, right? But now it sets the standard at which he needs to hold himself even higher, right?
Yeah.
It raises the expectations he holds to himself, which leads to his depression. So it's like,
True.
I need to protect these people. I'm the guy that survived a high storm. I need to be able to save all of these people and do
Yeah.
all these things and sort of things.
Which is
And
why
then
he won't, like,
whenever
admit
he
it
doesn't live
and-
up to those expectations, that's when, it really starts to
Yeah,
hit
because
him
he
and stuff. And so,
Yeah, because he doesn't really want to. I think it's like Rock, Teft, and Lopin. I think constantly are like, yeah, you're like a light eyes or whatever, and it's just like, no, I'm not. Like, stop.
yeah, you hold
saying it.
yourself like a light eyes would.
And he's like, nope, I'm not. He like won't admit that what he just did. He is officially like more. Like, he's clearly powerful. You know, he
Yeah.
has that power now.
Yeah, he has something, something to set him
something.
apart, right? So it's just another standard where it's like, okay, Kaladin can't hold himself to normal standards. He has to hold himself to higher standards, meaning when he doesn't meet those standards, it just reinforces the idea that he can't help people, he can't save people.
Right.
Another big theme of Kaladin in that first book is, why am I the one that always has to survive? Sort of thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
he was the one who survived when Amarim killed all of his friends. He was the one who survived when he was being sold into slavery.
Yeah.
He's like always the one alive at the end of the battlefield, like doing bridge runs. It's like, why do I have to live?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Why am I left with the like wreckage of all of these situations, sort of thing?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Kaladin,
he just
goes through it
he's-
constantly.
I can't wait to kind of, I guess, keep reading with him. He's like top 5.
Yeah.
Cosmere, probably top 3.
Yeah.
Probably will stay there.
Another beautiful chapter is the Wander Sail chapter.
Yes,
where
that's
Kaladin,
probably one of my favorite Cosmere chapters,
Talks
period.
to Hoid.
Yes.
When I read that chapter, that's when I knew that this wasn't just a good book; it was a
Great
special book.
Yeah.
like that story with Hoid really just spoke to me at the time. I was listening to it, and I was like, "Wow, this book! Like, this guy just really understands themes in writing."
Yeah.
And this is just a good book and a good story with like a really nice lesson. I miss when books or stories like are trying to convey something to the reader, right? Whether it's absolutely right or not entirely right or not, like to try and convey something.
There's an intention behind the message. I think that's the big thing. I think that's what you're trying to kind of say,
Yes.
because I think a lot of media, this isn't just a book thing, but like a lot of media, I think now
Feels like it's purely entertainment.
They have a lesson, but they have a lesson because they have to have a lesson, because that's just a story. You have to have a lesson, rather than there actually being some meaningful intention behind it.
crafting a story around a central theme or lesson.
Right. And this is clearly you're crafting a story around this. Like that's what you're trying to do. And I think
Like you had an idea,
Yeah.
and then all these other ideas, like you had this message you wanted to tell, and then all these ideas were born from that message,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like from
Yeah.
this inspiration.
So that Wander Sail chapter, I think, is just really solid because again, I think it reinforces that Hoyt is just like, he is like, I love the fact that he's actually taking the whole like cameo character to another level.
Absolutely.
Because Hoyt is like a really great character, and you can tell that there's some hidden deep hurt there, but also deep hope there.
Absolutely.
And I I hope Kaladin's playing that Wandersail because, we'll get another one of these freaking chapters where it's like he meets up with Hoyd. It's just, I think it's just really solid. I think you can tell that Kaladin's, I mean, I don't know, like, Stormlight-wise, how, I mean, obviously it's going to have a big impact on Cosmere-wise, but how, in terms of, like, world-hopping status, like, what characters could leave.
I don't know.
But clearly Kaladin isn't exactly I'm just hanging out on Roshar. If anything, even if he's not physically leaving Roshar, his impact is something.
Yeah.
I don't think Hoyd would do that otherwise.
It is always fun to try and pick at why Hoyd
picks who he does.
Really interacts with anybody he interacts with, right?
Because there's very specific picks.
Hoyd is a very interesting character, right? He doesn't really like to waste time necessarily.
No.
I guess
I don't think he's like a freaking Nick Fury picking the Avengers.
He doesn't like to waste time on people that he doesn't have something in mind for, right? So it's like, why does he choose to interact with these people?
Yeah.
Specifically, right? Like, what is his goal? What does he see them doing in the future that he is choosing to interact with them? Mm-hmm. So that's always fun to try and think about.
Yeah, because it's very interesting because it's not, like I said, he's not like freaking Nick Fury picking the Avengers here.
Exactly.
Like,
no, he's not trying to assemble a team or anything.
But he picked Kelsier. He picked Tress. It's very
He doesn't
odd.
really pick Kelsier, though, if you think about it.
Really,
he just,
I guess. But he did pick Tress.
He did pick Tress.
Which is very interesting because she's just somebody.
Yeah, he does. Well, maybe he doesn't even pick Tress. Maybe Tress is just one of those people he kind of runs into on his adventures. Maybe he wasn't looking for Tress. He wasn't looking for a person like Tress specifically, but maybe he was hoping like.
But this one's explicit.
Person like Tress would show up and help him find his way back.
But Kaladin was explicit.
Kaladin's
it's
an explicit character that he is choosing to interact with to help guide in a direction.
Yeah.
So that's weird. Kelsier and Tress are, I think, people he just ran along to on his journey. Especially Kelsier. He wasn't really expecting Kelsier to be there. I mean, he was just trying to get past Kelsier to get that medal. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they literally duked it out.
They duked it out. But yeah, it's interesting. Yeah. So I guess like at the end of it all, he kind of point blank picked Kaladin. Yeah. Not like, picked him and he's like the one above kind of.
Right. But he's choosing to spend his time with Kaladin for a reason. He clearly, he has a plan for Kaladin or sees Kaladin doing something in the future that would benefit him specifically because Hoyd
him giving that a Wandersail and then saying
Hoyd is a kind of selfish person. He does most things he does for himself. So it's like, what does he see Kaladin benefiting?
And is this
in the future?
Is this a selfish thing or is it he actually has something in mind? Whether it's for himself or for the better, whatever he's doing, because we, obviously, I don't even think you caught up know what he's doing. I don't think anybody knows what Hoyd's doing.
Nobody knows specifically what Hoyd has in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
So
one of the lines Hoyd says though in that Wandersail chapter, I don't know if I remember it verbatim, but it's one of the first quotes I ever wrote down for those books. Okay. It's like I think it's the point of a storyteller isn't to tell people what to think. Right? It's to give people stories to think upon. Right?
Yeah.
And that quote was like one of those ones that like hit me really hard. I was like, fuck. Yeah, like he's not trying to tell people specifically how to think. He's just trying to present ideas. Yeah. Like, hey, think about this one.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun to think about?
Right.
It's like, yeah, man, it is fun to think about. I like that a lot.
Well, because I think a lot of self-help things say read.
Yeah, they try to help you find your own answers.
Because I think you learn more about people and really yourself when you read. I think, ever since I kind of took up reading more, I've learned a lot more about people. Because I think it's this almost act of physically putting yourself in a point of view.
Right.
That you feel, Kaladin, he is a clearly depressed and dark past person. You are putting yourself in those shoes. Maybe not to the extreme. You're not walking around. Sure. Now I'm depressed because I read.
But reading a story like that is giving you at least some connection to a person like that. Yeah.
So, all in all, Kaladin I think is a pretty important character.
I love him. He's so
good. I love Kaladin.
Everybody loves Kaladin.
Everybody loves Kaladin. Oh, you know what? Can we talk about Syl though?
We can talk about Syl.
I love Syl.
Syl's great.
My favorite moment.
Basically just Tinkerbell.
Tinkerbell, but
If Tinkerbell
don't
could
come at me, Disney adults.
If she could speak.
Don't come at me, Disney adults. Well, Tinkerbell can speak if you watch the movies. Your girlfriend would be very mad at you if you didn't acknowledge the Tinkerbell movies.
No, I'm not talking about the goddamn Tinkerbell movie. She's way sassier in the Peter Pan movie than she is in any of her own movies.
The Syl moment where she discovers what sarcasm is, and then her first response is literally just the most mischievous face on the planet. It's just so freaking funny.
She's just the best. Like,
yeah,
she's just a great counterweight for Kaladin as a character. You know,
because
they balance each other out so well.
Because I think she kind of talks things through with him.
Yeah,
really interesting.
It's also just like it helps Kaladin not always be alone. You know, like he always has somebody there for him. I mean, he still has moments where he is on his own. And he lets his thoughts affect him in negative ways, but still is always a voice there.
It's an interesting way of doing like the external consciousness character.
Yeah, no, Syl's a great character. Yeah, she's such a funny character.
I like her a lot. Yeah. So, what are we talking about now?
I mean, you briefly mentioned it before, but the ending of this book is spectacular.
It is really good.
The fact that it all comes to a head, that Kaladin and Dalinar's plot lines converge in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Kaladin's first really quick.
Go for it.
Where Kaladin's, at the beginning of this book, he's in the lowest point of his life.
Yeah.
And then he meets other characters that are also in the lowest point of their lives and convinces them that it's okay to live and it's okay to live for something better. Yeah. Right? Like, he convinces them, like, hey, we can sit around and talk to each other and have dinner and, like, laugh around a fire and live life, and that's good, kind of thing. Like, all these people who were either criminals or slaves or just, like...
I mean, we don't 100% know.
Like, the lowest members of society, though.
Yeah.
Right? And then by the end of the book, they're home free, right? They come up with a plan to escape, and Kaladin's like, guys, we did it. We escaped. We can leave.
Yeah.
Right? And then they notice Dalinar fighting on the distant plains, and Kaladin has this moment where he knows what he has to do. Right? He's like, we have to go back, right? It's that line. He's like, we have to go back. Storms, we have to go back.
Yeah.
Right? And then, like, that's the line people always talk about, but the moment that gets me is the moment after. It's like he turns to them, and the book reads something like, he looks to all these people that were criminals and slaves and, like, wanted nothing to do with these light-eyed people, and he looks at them and they all nod in agreement, sort of thing. They're all like, yeah, we do have to go back. We do have to go help him. And it's like Kaladin's influence over these people was so profound. They went from people who didn't care whether they lived or died to people that were willing to risk their lives for a light-eyed man.
Yeah.
So just his impact on those people and watching how far him and they grew to the point where they were like, yeah, let's go risk our lives for this guy because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
And I think
that's just awesome.
I think the double down with, Dalinar giving up the shard blade and no, he doesn't give up the plate.
Oh, he doesn't give up the plate.
He gives up Oathbringer for Kaladin and all his men. That's Oathbringer. That's not Oathbringer.
That's Oathbringer right there.
No, there's another black sword.
There's another black sword. But he's like,
that we're going to talk about in the podcast that we record after this.
He's like, one priceless blade
for
thousands of priceless lives.
Right. Which
that line. Oh, what a bar.
It's so good.
What a bar.
It's so solid. Right? And it's like such a good, like, kick in the face to Sadeas. Like,
absolutely. I mean, Sadeas looks at him too. He's like, you're mad.
You're like crazy.
You're
dude.
Insane, dude.
You're giving this shit up.
People have fought kingdoms for this, like.
And you're giving it up for a bunch of, in Sadeas' thought process,
slaves,
objects.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
like a bunch of blocks, basically.
And Donald's like,
and he's just like, yeah, and that's it. And it's like
crazy.
Well, shit. Like that's,
yeah, especially when he summons the blade too. Like everybody around him thinks he's about to start like a huge brawl, right? A huge fight, like and kill Sadeas to save these people.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, he's not that person anymore. He's not the Blackthorn,
right?
anymore. He
doesn't have
gives
the
up
thrill.
his blade.
And it is
for those
put
people
in the middle of the glyph.
Kaladin's thoughts when it gets that scene, because Dalinar's trying to negotiate. He's like, "I'll give you money. I'll give you this. I'll give you that." And Kaladin's like, "There's just another broken promise, another light-eyed man, another broken promise, like same old shit, sort of thing, you know." And Kaladin's like shock of surprise when Dalinar legitimately gives up his blade.
Oh, it's one of the best.
Kaladin's like, "I cannot believe you just did that." Like he's talking to Dalinar, and Dalinar's like, "Yeah, man.
I did that.
I did that.
I did that."
And Kaladin is just like so utterly confused.
I know.
And like he gets that smidge of hope again where it's like maybe a light-eyed man can be a good person.
Right.
You know? Like he still has that betrayal from Amaram, but just that little bit of him is maybe like maybe Dalinar is different.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then the fact that it's just kind of like they're both standing on the glyph that Navani wrote down.
Yeah, I was just about to mention this. The chapter's
she wrote
title,
it to burn it as a prayer.
The chapter's title is Justice.
Yes.
And they are standing in a giant version of the glyph.
Glyph Justice.
Justice. What poetic writing.
It's just so good.
And it's right after Navani burns the glyph.
The glyph.
A smaller glyph of justice.
For like a prayer to for Dalinar to come back.
Or Dalinar to come back.
Yeah, so anyway, back to the Brandon's way of workaround for incest. Okay. The chapter where Dalinar beats the shit out of Elhokar. So he can be like, by the way, your mother and I are courting.
Yeah.
Is the funniest shit. Yeah, he basically went in, beat the shit out of the king, and was like, and I'm banging your mom, and left.
Well, the best part of that chapter, right, is Dalinar goes in, he's like beating the shit out of him, and he's like, I could have killed you whenever I wanted, you little son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And Elhokar's like, this is supposed to make me feel better? And he's like, no, but like, I could have done it.
Stop blaming me for it.
You know why I didn't? And he's like, I don't know why. And he's like, because I love you, you idiot. And Elkar's like, well, that's like a funny way of showing it, kind of thing. You know, he's like, no, dude, I love you like a son, right? Like I would never do anything to hurt you. That's why I'm showing you that I could and I don't. Right?
Yeah.
Because
he keeps on. For the context, we never went into it because like Dalinar eventually gets accused of trying to kill the king.
Kill the king. And so then to prove that he doesn't want to kill the king, he goes into the king's chambers
and beats the shit out of the king.
And beats the shit out of him. Yeah. And when the king screams for help, the guards don't answer because they're Dalinar's guards.
Yeah.
You know? And so he's like, see, I could have killed you whenever, and I didn't because I love you like a son, man. You're a little stupid, but I love you like a son.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, he has this talk with Elhokar, and he's like, you're going to make me the, like...
the High Prince of War
thing. You're, like, going to do all these things, and we're going to fucking, like, get to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, after all that, he's like, he walks out, and he's like, oh, I'm courting your mother. And then some text reads something, like, later in the book, and it's like, and this left the king with a wider shock of surprise than when he thought he was going to die.
Yeah.
Like, he was more surprised by that than when he thought Dalinar was going to kill him.
But, you know, it just, I mean, I know it's, I make the joke, but I think Navani and Dalinar have a pretty good romance.
I think their romance is really good. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think it just continues to grow throughout the books, too. I think they're, I think the romance is very beautiful.
Yeah.
Again, I wish we got like a little more of it, but
I would think
it's very good.
More books, more.
Yeah.
More
Throughout
stuff.
the books, you get more of it too. I think it has a fun little start in this book where they're kind of like she's very flirty with him, and he is very much like, no, I'm not about that, lady. And then he goes to his own chamber and is like, oh my god,
dude.
like, dude, if only.
Can you
man,
believe
like,
it?
Oh my god, like, what am I supposed to do if she asks me again? I don't think I can.
And then she asked him again, and was like, no.
Yeah, he's like, no, yeah, straight up. And then by the end, he's like, I almost died. I'm gonna do it. You know, like I can't wait anymore.
But man, just walking out of the king's. By the way, I'm banging your mom. It's
Banging your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
Yeah, and then in the final Zeth chapter, it's revealed that
That Teravangian,
the person who was, I guess, housing Yasna before her and Shallan left, is the one that hired Zeth to go kill.
Yeah.
We don't know if he told Zeth to go kill Gavilar, but we know that.
So we know that Teravangian's the most recent person to get his hands on Zeth's O Stone.
Yes.
So after the 5-year thing, Zeth got that list of all those people to kill, that's Taravangian, right? So Taravangian was telling him,
which is all like all these other kingdoms.
and he put his own name on the list too to make it seem like
Big Psych.
So yeah, Zeth wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Right? Big Psych out. Yeah.
Which is funny because I think Taravangian, like, is that this, like, so what if I accidentally killed you? He's like, yeah, just collateral, I think.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, but he's also like, I also did put specific instructions to ensure that like wouldn't happen, sort of thing. But also like,
If you did, like,
if you did, like,
my plan still goes through.
yeah, exactly. It's
And
like,
it's just
what
like-
the hell is this guy's plan? Like, he's insane.
Yeah.
You know, he's nuts. And especially because the book kind of sets him up as being like this king of this medically advanced country. Like, they have tons of hospitals. Like, he's supposed to be a super generous, kind king. And then by the end, it's like, yeah, I was telling you to go kill those people, you know, for the greater good. And then he's walking him through this one of the hospital rooms where they're draining blood of people.
And they're recording
Their death rattles, you
Yeah.
know? And it's like, so those are the death rattles.
Right,
Those
from
are the
the- yeah.
epigraphs of every freaking chapter. That's a little...
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, also go kill Dalinar Kholin.
and it's like, what? But, and then also that Shallan's dad was in league with the Ghost Bloods. Oh my gosh. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
What are the Ghost Bloods? Cullen still doesn't really know.
I mean, I know they have to be important because Mistborn Era 3 is called the Ghost Bloods.
Mistborn Era 3, Ghost Bloods.
I just love secret societies. Just give me more of that shit. I love it. I'm so excited. And then
You'll learn more about the Ghost Bloods.
I would think so.
Yeah.
And then we just talk about the final chapter with Hoyd. Hoyd had the final chapter in this book.
Hoyd has the final chapter of all of the Stormlight books.
Oh.
Yeah.
Every Stormlight book, the final chapter is Hoyd.
Except for like the novellas, I think.
Obviously.
But every main Stormlight book, Hoyd's got that final chapter that's like the epilogue.
The epilogue. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
he's
they're-
just like
they're all-
hanging out at like some village, right?
Yeah.
And then he's just like these people are like, why are you here? And he's just like, I'm waiting on this. And then some dude just pops up and then dies. Isn't that what it is?
Some dude pops up and like
Screams.
collapses.
It's something's coming and then he collapses. I don't remember if he said his name.
I believe he screams. If only we had our phones.
You need to
have
have-
the book right there.
I know, but it's the mic stand.
It's your mic stand.
Okay, people. Headphone users, I'm sorry.
Brace yourself. Just a little
Okay.
bit. It doesn't look like it's fucked up.
No, I didn't go
Anything.
crazy.
Okay.
So here, we're going to check. We're doing it in real time.
Just
We
start flipping pages like crazy. That'll really fuck up the mic.
We need to get Gavin in here as our fact checker.
Yeah, Jamie. We need a little Jamie.
A little. Okay, let's see. Where is it? Okay.
Is that the whole epilogue? That's a short one.
Yeah, that's the whole epilogue.
Oh,
so the
that's
man
like the
paused.
shortest
He
one.
raised a hand to his head, wavering. Who am I? I am Talinel Aelin, Stone Sinu, Herald of the Almighty. The desolation has come. Oh God, it has come, and I have failed. He slumped forward, hitting the rocky ground, shard blade clattering down behind him, and it did not vanish, meaning that he probably died. What?
That's interesting, isn't it, everybody? Oh, isn't that so fun to watch somebody speculate about things
I
when
don't
your
know.
book's ahead of them?
So, yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so his shard blade didn't vanish, so you take that as though he died, and then he screamed about how he's a herald of the Almighty and how he's failed, and
And that the collapse or something has come.
the collapse is coming. Interesting, y'all.
Interesting. Yes, and the fact that, but Hoyd knew that he was going to show up. That's
Why
the
else
thing.
would he be there, right? I mean, Hoyd always
Well, it sounded like
Hoyd
I didn't get
positions
into
himself in these places, you know.
But it's like I didn't read
for
the whole thing.
specific reasons.
But
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's a guy that's just like, "What are you doing here?" And he's just like, "I'm waiting."
yeah.
So
And,
he
like,
knows it's gonna happen.
And the whole epilogue too is Hoyd just fucking around, like
basically
doing magic tricks or some bullshit
I love
until that crazy guy gets there, and it's like,
oh,
yeah,
it's time.
it's time.
It's time.
It's time. Yeah, you don't know. The heralds have been mentioned though.
The heralds have been mentioned of
Right.
the Knights Radiant.
Yeah, so the heralds.
I
Our
assume.
thing that's
Okay,
been
so
mentioned.
yes, so I assume it has something to do with each of these spren that seem to be talking, because I would assume that there's more than just Syl. They can't just only be Syl. That's just...
Surely not.
So I would assume that at least the heralds, and this is just speculation. Okay.
Okay.
But I would assume that each person that has like the spren that talk are like kind of like the head of each of like what would have been like the different like parts of the Knights Radiant. Okay.
Okay. Am I in the yellow?
Yes, you're in the yellow. So that's my thought process. So there's going to be 10 people in the books that have these silly little spren that are, you know,
These silly little
guys. And they are I guess the next Knights Radiant. So Kaladin's probably one.
Isn't it fun, guys? For all my homies.
I mean, they do mention that he utters one of the other codes of the Knights Radiant, not the life before death, but that I protect those who cannot protect themselves.
Kaladin does?
Yes.
At the end of the book? Yes,
Yes.
he does. And then that gives him like kind of like a burst of power, stormlight,
yes.
right? Yeah.
So I don't know.
He like starts like he like sucks the light out of the gems of the
Yes.
Parshendi beards, right? Oh, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, when I read that.
Well, and I hope we get to see. There's so much in this fucking book.
I know. It's crazy.
I do hope we get to see more of the Parshendi Shard Bearer, which I mean, come on. There's
Yeah.
there's only like one. Mm-hmm. So yeah, obviously we will. But yeah, I mean, there's secret societies. Clearly, the Ghost Bloods are something to do with everything in the Cosmere. But I think with this one, I have so many theories, and yet I don't have any. I guess.
That's awesome.
I mean, but you know what I mean.
No, yeah, but that makes I think that makes for such a good book.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like you can do so much theory crafting and then still kind of have no idea what to expect. Mm-hmm. Like that makes for a really good.
It's just
Really
solid.
good story. Yeah.
All around. So
How long have we been recording? Does it show us on here?
I don't think it shows us. What's the time in the top right?
2:30. Goddamn. When did we start?
It's about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I think we did about an hour and a half.
So
that's one of the longer episodes for sure.
Well, I figured it would be because it's Way of Kings.
But to wrap it up, out of 10, what do you think?
Probably 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
If it's not I hate giving perfect scores. I'm one of those people. It's a 9.5.
9.5.
Whatever, dude.
What else would you give a 10 out of 10? You
I know.
Like that's the.
I mean,
that's
you can't.
what the thing.
Everything has its
Like
stuff.
obviously nothing is perfect, but if you liked it enough, like I think
So a 10 out of 10. It's a 10 out of 10. Yeah. It's solid. It's good.
There you go.
Read it.
And
Do
things
it.
can change over time too. Like your 10 out of 10 becomes something even better, then you just make that a 10. And
Agreed.
Reduce this to like a 9 or 9.5.
Yeah. So, but that's Way of Kings.
That's Way of Kings.
That's Way of Kings. So, next episode. We do wash our clothes. We are recording it right after this.
I don't. He's not speaking for me.
We didn't want to have a full-blown, 3-hour episode where we talk about both.
No, that would be too much.
That would be too much.
That would be too much. Yeah.
But we're going to record them back-to-back. So, we're going to do Warbreaker next, and then we're going to jump back on the Stormlight train.
Yes.
Down the road. So, yes, but we're doing Warbreaker next, and then... Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys in the
next
episode,
next
the
podcast.
Warbreaker episode.
And hopefully this in-person stuff looks good because these two episodes
I hope
are
it
gonna
looks
be
good.
like this.
Yeah. I think it'll look good.
Oh, I think it'll look fine.
Yeah.
But
I also think this was probably one of our better podcasts.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
But should we get an intern to fact check next time?
I think we should get an intern. What do you guys think?
Should
we hire a little gremlin?
We should
have
hire-
a little gremlin. He's upstairs.
We could get him.
He's upstairs in the dungeon.
Oh my gosh. And he hasn't screamed yet, so we still have to...
Oh, yeah. No, we got to get on
gotta
that.
go.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, guys.
Catch you guys in the next video.
All right.
It's so stupid.